Meetings Act. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided by the Board Secretary to the Daily Record and published on December 13, 2018, by stating the time, place, and date of all regularly scheduled meetings, and by filing a copy with the municipal clerk. A copy of this shall be included with the minutes of this meeting. Nora, please call the roll.
Mr. Berkowitz.
Here.
Mr. Jaskowitz.
Here.
Mr. Kaplan.
Here.
Mr. Reddy.
Present.
Mr. Shaw. Ms. Snyder.
Here.
Mr. Willens. Chairman Irakane.
Yes,
We also
here.
have Mr. King.
Present.
Mr. Chadwick.
Present.
Mr. Canjiano.
Here.
Start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. At this point in this evening's meeting, is there any member of the public that has any business to be brought to this board that is not on this evening's agenda? Please come up up to the microphone and identify yourself and your address.
My name's Julia Peterson. I live at 25 Old Parsippany Road. I'm going to be very, very brief. I know how important it is to be brief. I was told last night that if there is a case coming before this board that isn't scheduled yet, that I want to be noticed on, that if I write a letter to the board asking to be noticed, that I can be noticed. I want to run that by your attorney.
See the woman on the end?
Well, yeah, is that true?
If you want, we'll definitely send you a letter, okay?
Okay,
I
all
don't
right.
think we need a legal opinion, do we? No. Nora, would you send her a letter on whatever case she wants?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
All you needed to do was call her.
Well,
Identify the case. You have to identify
okay,
it now.
the case does not have a number yet. I just know enough about it because it is right opposite our house. We are 2 feet out of the notice zone for this case. We own a house that is very important to the history of Parsippany. It's one of 3 pre-revolutionary houses in the town.
We really shouldn't discuss it now.
Yeah.
I can't discuss my house.
There's no need to.
It's gonna relate to.
What if the case never comes in?
Well, I don't know. Actually, if the case never comes in, I still would like this board to know this about my house.
But the case, there
Okay.
is a number, there is an application.
Okay.
That is.
There is an
There
application.
is, yes.
Okay. And so we don't get any support from the town, I mean, any governmental support or anything. So it's just us keeping this house going. And it's very important to us. It is a National Register house. The fact that it's a National Register house would probably necessitate, for anything close to it, a balloon test and a Section 106 review. And I just want to say those 2 things. Thank you. And I have a picture of the house, which I'll leave with Nora. Thank you for your
Thank you.
time.
Thank you.
All righty, what do we got here tonight? We have adoption of resolutions. Mr. Berkowitz, Mr. Kaplan, Mr. Prasad, Mr. Reddy, Mr. Willens, and myself. Does one of these have to be, is one of them we authorize you to, the jewelry store?
Yes.
That, we should read that one, right? Because that was to give you, we never was that the one we didn't approve? We just
We-
gave approval for you to draft a resolution?
That's correct, and we worked it out with council, we went over it.
I'll just move the C variances together, and then we'll do these separate.
Fine,
How's that?
okay.
As to applications number 1919, 1924, 1930, 1933, and 1920, I move that we adopt the resolutions.
So moved.
Sir, that is a second. Is there any discussion? Nora, call the roll.
Mr. Berkowitz.
Yes.
Mr. Kaplan.
With the exception of 1920, which I recuse myself, yes.
Mr. Reddy.
Yes.
Mr. Willens.
Yes.
Chairman Irakane.
Yes. Okay, now, number 1716 is the denial.
All right.
Okay, you want to do that one, Mr. Berkowitz?
And you would vote yes to deny.
Yes to deny, yes.
All right, as to application 1716, D variance denial, Robert Campbell, 1092 Littleton Road, Block 166, Lot 95, Zone R3. I move that we adopt the resolution to deny.
So moved.
Any discussion? Nora, call the roll.
Mr. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplan?
Yes.
Mr. Reddy?
Yes.
Mr. Willens?
Yes.
Chairman Hurricane?
Yes. And then we have the one that we authorized Mr. King to draw up a resolution. And do you see that one here? Some Parsippany Jewelry.
Yeah, we
Do I
just
do
have the
do
first
I do
page.
that one also, Mr. Berkowitz? You're on a roll.
I'm on a roll. That's the application 1716, application 1848, a D variance and a waiver of site plan for the Parsippany Jewelry Store, 176, Route 46, Block 693, Lot 16, Zone B2. I move that we grant the D variance as expressed in the resolution.
So moved.
Any discussion? Nora, call the roll.
Mr. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplan?
Yes.
Mr. Reddy?
Yes.
Mr. Willens?
Yes.
Chairman Hurricane? Okay.
I would say something about denials at this point, but just, I'm gonna be grown up about it for a change. Okay, are we carrying 1936?
They have to re-notice that one. They didn't
So-
notice properly.
So we don't have to carry it, because it was
Nope.
never, they have to renotice, fine, okay. So 1936 is off. So 1935, Redentor Camaro, 79 Jacksonville Drive, C variance to construct an asphalt pad.
Are they here?
Come on forward, come on up.
Who's going to provide testimony, both of you? Are you both going to provide testimony? If you could stay standing, raise your right hand. You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before the board is true so help you God? And for the record, can you state and spell your name?
I'm Vivian Camero, Vivian, Camero, Camero.
And I'm Redentor Camero, Redentor Camero.
And you're the owners of the subject property?
Yes,
Okay, you're
sir.
sworn. You can sit now. Thank you.
Alrighty, so, you wanna put an asphalt pad in the backyard, looks like 25 by 40. And this is for your children to play basketball,
Yes,
is that
sir.
correct? Okay, and you need a variance because, you're proposing 5 feet off the rear. Did you talk to your neighbor behind your house about this?
Yes, sir.
Did they have any problems with it? No. You're not gonna put a tennis court in or anything like that, are you? Just basketball?
Yes, sir, there's a
Is there a
basket.
fence across the back?
Yes, there's.
Is there vegetation between the houses?
No, it's a forest in the back.
You have a
It's
forest
trees.
behind you?
It's a trees.
Okay, so whoever's behind you, and you're not gonna, interrupt their peaceful coexistence on the property. Is there gonna be lights on this, or it's just used for daytime?
Just for the,
Daytime, so it's dawn to dusk.
Yes, sir.
Okay, kids aren't gonna play with flashlights.
yes.
So the resolution would include no lights.
Say it again, sir.
The
Yeah, there's
resolution
no-
will get approved.
no lights,
No
installed.
lights, okay. all right.
Any other questions by the board?
Yes. How high is the fence in the back?
It's like, I think it's 4 feet.
Okay. What is in back of you? Can you explain can
It's
you
woods.
explain?
It's woods.
So you have no neighbors?
No,
Sides, on the
Side, on the
sides,
side
but
only.
not on the back.
You don't have a back neighbor?
no.
No,
there's
no
not.
back neighbor.
Do you know who owns the woods?
I think it's.
Because this is what I'm thinking. If I own the back of your property, the last thing I want is a basketball head, unassumed, hitting my head. You know what I mean? From a pass, from a
Yes.
rogue pass.
Uh-huh.
So what's in back of your property?
It's wood.
It's all trees.
It's all trees.
And do you know who owns it?
It's a company. I think,
Yeah, because it doesn't look like what's here, but
Yeah,
they
it's,
could be
I think
right.
it's the this in net
He
lease.
he
part.
backs on, do you back onto Wyndham Worldwide, a business? Is your property back onto commercial
Yes.
property,
Yes.
Wyndham
Yeah, yeah.
But it's
Worldwide?
kinda like far.
It's,
So
the
they're-
buildings are far.
Nobody's,
not-
they're not gonna build houses behind you.
No,
No.
they're
It's all,
far.
it's
all
all
woods.
commercial property.
It's all woods.
Yeah, our direct
A lot
back
of
is
woods.
all woods, and it's like further. Are the
Okay,
the-
and so the side fences, how tall are they?
The one on the side, it's like maybe
On the
around
left.
6 feet. It's
6
high.
feet is high,
Yeah.
yeah. And the other one is probably 4.
Same as ours.
And both side neighbors know about this and have no
Yeah.
issues?
Yes, yeah, and they can see the kids
Yeah,
playing.
and they're happy
I
about it.
understand they
because-
could see the kids, all
Yes,
right,
but-
but we all know the dynamics of basketball. Okay, and when you're shooting at fences, excuse me, the net, okay, it's a high shot, and if somebody like shoots over this basketball, but I mean, I see you have a decent amount of side, setback here, so I'm just concerned that your neighbors, again, unassuming, doing gardening, all of a sudden is getting whacked in the face with a road
They're
ball.
Actually, honestly, they're actually happier about it
Yeah?
because my kids, they play on the road.
On the road
They've
before.
been thinking about their safety before.
'Cause
So,
we
Right,
did-
they're thinking about their safety. I'm
Yes.
thinking about your neighbor's safety.
yeah, that's
That's
right.
what I'm thinking
Yeah.
about.
They mentioned that also.
They were happier now that
Yes.
we have the court at the back than seeing the kids playing on the street.
They even telling us, oh, they're safer now.
Right,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
and I
We
care about your
understand-
kids'
yes.
safety too.
Yes.
But I'm also thinking about your neighbor's safety. Your neighbors are not the ones playing in the road.
Yes, but
Yes.
All of a sudden, they're gonna have
like,
basketballs, kind of
we have
shooting
the
over
fence,
the fence.
Yes, and we're kind of far. We're not very close. If you
Yes.
can see the
Yeah, and
Yes,
that's what I
yes,
just brought
we
up.
are not very close.
Okay.
Like, yeah, there's a space.
Basket at each end?
No, just one.
Just one.
Yes, it's just half court.
Can you put it on the one in by the shed? Or are you gonna put it on the other end? The one
By
basket?
the shed.
By the
Yes.
shed.
Okay.
So you got more, well, you
Yeah.
probably have 20 feet to the, about 20 feet to the fence from there?
Yeah, to
Ballpark.
the fence on the side, yes.
Yeah.
Based on your drawing, it looks like it's
Yeah.
about 20 feet.
Yeah, because the house is 10.
And if the ball hits the shed, it's gonna bounce back in.
Mm, yeah,
Yes.
certainly.
Any other questions by the board? Any members of the public have any questions of these witnesses on the testimony given? Hear none and see none, there's nothing else you'd like to add, right? No?
And this was noticed, correct? Everybody was noticed?
Yes, we sent all the
Yeah.
letters.
Thank
We
you.
went around to
Okay,
give
that's
letters.
fine.
At this point, are there any members of the public who wish to speak in opposition to this application? In support of this application? I hear none and see none. Someone like to make a recommendation on this?
Yeah,
On this quote?
I'll make a recommendation. I'm gonna be voting for it. Your neighbors are not objecting. You're keeping the kids behind the house safer, and why not enjoy your property? So I'll be voting for it.
Thank you. Someone frame a resolution?
I can do it.
Thank you, sir.
Application 19:35, Redenter Camarillo, 79 Jacksonville Drive, Block 346, Lot number 11, Zone R4. To grant or issue C variance to construct an asphalt pad contrary to section 430-35, column 9.
Second, Jaskowitz.
Any discussion, Nora, call the roll?
Mr. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Jaskowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplan?
Yes.
Mr. Reddy?
Yes.
Ms. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Willens?
Yes.
Chairman Irakane?
Yes. The result is the variance is granted. We will memorialize this at our next meeting, and you'll be free to proceed.
Thank
Okay?
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy. Case 1916. Paramaj Singh, I'm sorry if I screwed that up. 19 Littleton Road, Block 454. C variance to legalize sheds and a driveway expansion into install a concrete pad, air conditioner, porch, stairs, paver walkway, and a fountain.
Who is gonna provide testimony?
I'm mostly gonna talk, but I'll want him.
All right, so if you both raise your right hands, you swear affirm that testimony you're about to give before this board is the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
And for the record, can you state and spell your name?
Tafid Singh,
How you spell that?
Tavemet. Last name is Singh, Singh.
And you, sir?
Probably
Okay. And are you the owners of the house?
I'm on the house, the owner, business.
Okay. And do you live at the house?
Yes.
You may sit, you're sworn, thank you.
Okay, so. Rather extensive application. I see we have comments from Mr. Chadwick. Oh, we already gave you guys a variance on this property, didn't we? This is, 2 years ago, maybe? This is Jimmy Vigilante's old house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew it sounded familiar. So, I just want to look at the professionals. Mr. Chadwick says there's illegally placed sheds on the side of the property. Is that part of your application?
Yes, well, one of them is gonna be removed, it's a dog cage, it's not really a shed, so I'm gonna go ahead and remove that.
Okay.
Is that the one that's right next to the property line?
No, there's one next to it which can't be moved, and it can't really be, you know, it's been there
Did
for
you
like
build
10
that, or
years.
was that there when you bought the
It's
property?
been there for about 10 years or so, I don't know. As long as I've been there, it's been there. And I've
So
never
how
had
did-
an
Was
issue
there when
with
you
it.
purchased it?
Yep.
So how did we miss that last
Yeah.
time around, Nora?
Which shed is coming down? I have your survey in front of me,
So,
and it shows a stone area. Is that the frame shed that's behind that coming down?
no, so the one that's on the property line, that's the one I wanna keep, and the one right next to it, it looks kinda like a cage, it's really like worn down.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the one I'm gonna remove because it's in really bad shape and I don't know why that's there, I don't have a dog, so. I wanna get rid of
You're
it.
saying the one that's next to the property line, the gas station side,
Yes,
you can't move that?
no, that cannot be moved, and it's been there for as long as I've been there, and I didn't put it in. So, I don't know why it's an issue now.
Yeah, why wasn't it an issue last time when you came before us? Interesting.
Last time I had proposed for a third party to be able to rent out the office space, and that was
Yep.
it, and, it was never really brought to my attention, and I never really knew about it.
Well, if the zoning officer went out there and looked at the property, they should have seen it, or they should have seen it on
Yeah.
I tried to follow protocol as much as possible, but,
I
you
understand.
know,
I'm not criticizing you
Yeah.
for it. If it was there
Yeah,
when you
I agree.
bought it and
Yeah.
nobody said anything to this point, and you're not exactly up against a residential property, if my memory serves me correct. There's a
No.
gas station on the other side.
yeah, exactly.
So
And they
you're
have their
not-
dumpster
you're not-
right on the property
yeah,
line,
right.
so.
So you're not encroaching on anybody's
No.
peaceful,
In fact, their raccoons from the dumpster are interrupting us, you know.
How did you get here? Did the zoning officer come and give you a notice?
Yeah, so I guess the code enforcement, officer or somebody, they came from the town, they left us a notice, and then I went to see Nora and the zoning officer, and that's when they said that I have to come here and bring this to the board.
So it's just a shed.
no, everything that's on here is already there. Is that
Well,
correct?
Yes.
Well, the shed is already there, the
How
one we were
about,
talking
how
about.
about the driveway expansion?
And the driveway expansion, the driveway I had done,
Okay,
okay?
all right.
Because
And the concrete pad,
concrete, for the air conditioners?
I guess, yeah.
Yes, that was already there. I
That was
wanted
already-
to get it repaired because I took it out. And when, I guess, the zoning officer came, it was already taken out.
Okay.
Actually had two contractors who kind of really messed everything up. They told me they did something and they didn't do it, especially with the town and everything. So proper paperwork was never filed, I guess. I was told that it was filed, but I didn't know. I actually wasted probably $80,000. just in
What
this.
about, what about the porch, stairs, the paver walkway, and the fountain? Or
So that's what I want to put in. It's not there right now. I want to propose that, basically.
You want to propose this porch, stairs, paver walkway, and fountain?
Well, no, there's a porch in front of the shed. There was a paver area that was already there. It was really broken and not safe, so I took it out, and I
Right.
wanted to replace the pavers. And they
Okay.
said I had to go back to the board for that too.
Okay,
So that's really just repair along with the air conditioning concrete pad. So both those things are repairs that I wanted to do because they were in really bad shape.
you gonna make the place look better after you're done?
Yes. Well, with the driveway already being paved, it's
It is an improvement.
It's helped
You know,
a lot.
I'm looking at this application, you're like you're like an island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
Pretty
right?
much.
I mean, there's,
Yeah.
could you even walk to the nearest residential property from this thing, right?
Yes.
And who lives here now?
Me.
You live here?
We live here, yes.
Well,
We-
there was
we
something
occupy
saying
the
about you're gonna
residential
rent it
portion.
out,
So,
something in Mr. Chadwick's notes that you're gonna rent it out?
No, that was a error, I guess, on my part when I worded the application.
Okay.
Because they asked me, have you ever been to the board for any previous resolutions? I said yes, for, I wanted to rent out the office space.
To rent out the commercial part?
Yes,
Okay.
so I guess that's where it got kind of confusing for them, and he thought maybe the residential, I don't want to rent out the residential.
All right, let's move over to Mr. Holloway's letter. Mr. Holloway, is he down there?
Yeah, well,
No, he's not.
Mr. Canjiano,
He's got his,
filling in for Chaz today.
Okay. You want to talk about this and see?
Yeah, I just, most of my comments are just generally housekeeping and, reconciling the plan notes. But the big item is number 6. And it's more to do with a NJDEP jurisdiction about the walkway and the fountain. There is a brook, a stream, a dry
Yes.
brook that's adjacent to your property.
Yep.
There's something called a riparian zone. That's a no disturb vegetated zone.
Yep.
That installing this fountain and the walkway and the disturbance around it may not be allowed by the DEP in general, but it is subject to their jurisdiction for an application's got to be submitted to them. In addition, there may be wetlands associated with that brook, and again, there's a transition zone, a buffer on that, and again, you're not allowed to go and disturb that buffer. So the improvements of the fountain and the walkway may be problematic based on the state rules. That's and so if we, if the board approves the application, I would say that it should be conditional on DEP permits.
So
That-
the property on his property is actually controlled by wetland possibly?
Possibly wetlands, definitely flood hazard area and riparian.
That's not automatically assumed? This is the part of getting DEP approval?
Well, they would have to. It's a separate process, but they would have to
Right.
do that. So
But-
ours should be conditional on that approval.
Is that back area, my recollection, that back area is all lawn now, right?
Yes, it's always
So
been
you
lawn.
may be grandfathered in terms of that.
Yeah, so
You're
the
gonna
only
have to,
thing
you
is,
may have a by right permit. You just-
so the only thing is, the brook, like you were just stating, I wanted to do a walkway to get in and out of the basement, because since when it snows, it's very hard to walk in the snow if you're coming back from the backyard. So that's what I had proposed for that, but if that's an issue, it's not like I need to have it, I can always, you can scratch that
Yeah,
completely.
typically your engineer would do is
Because just to avoid the fact of going to the DEP, because that's a whole different
yes.
application and more hassle, that's why. But as far as the fountain goes, it's like a huge difference from the stream than the fountain. The stream is on one side and the fountain's on one side.
It's still within the
completely-
regulated area.
But it's completely separate from the stream.
It's not our jurisdiction, right?
yeah, no.
You can go online and see what type of permit you need based on your circumstance.
Okay.
And then you can make the decision, I don't wanna get involved with this is just gonna be.
See,
too-
the only thing is,
But you're already improved in the back.
yeah, so.
That's a major issue.
So we put down grass, and the other thing was the contractor was supposed to do all of this, get permits and everything. He said he did it, he never did it. Like I said, I wasted $80,000. And I also bought the fountain because he said he was gonna do everything. And guess what? Now I have a fountain sitting there, not installed, but sitting there, that I don't know what the situation is with. So that's my only thing, my only concern, other than what we already spoke about.
Well, as Mr. Canjiano said, that, I mean, if we give you an approval, obviously it's gonna have to be subject to whatever state regulations there
Yeah.
are. And you would need to go, you know, like, today.
But isn't there like a distance, a certain distance that stream has to be?
Can't tell you that.
Only the DEP can.
You're gonna be inside their jurisdiction.
Okay.
They're gonna determine whether you're grandfathered in terms of the site improvements.
Okay.
If you are not, forget it.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Any other questions by
Yeah,
the board?
do you have your survey there?
No, not with me, no.
Because I'm looking at your survey, and you show the setback line of 25 feet as a dotted line.
Yes.
But then there's a solid line that goes down the side of the house and then along the back through where you have the proposed fountain. I don't know if you have any idea. Maybe you can take a look at it and see if you can explain what that line means.
Yeah.
Or I wonder if that's a delineation.
This one.
Is that like the building envelope maybe?
He's talking
No,
about
it's-
this line.
Oh, the setback for the,
I just wonder if it's a
It's
DEP.
marked on the survey, the setback from the stream and what it is, like what we can't build in. That's what I was told.
This is the line or this is the line?
Well, I guess my question is, it shows your fountain like slightly over that line.
Show him, show him.
let's have one person talking here and,
I'll
so
check
everything
it
was on
out.
the record, okay?
If that's a DEP delineation, then all you gotta do is
It's
move the
not.
fountain a little bit.
Bernie, it is not.
It's
I don't
not.
know what it is.
Oh, okay. Well, that was why I asked the question, because I didn't know what it is.
Oh, so you see the solid line you were just asking me about?
Yeah.
Right? That's not the setback. The dotted line is the setback.
Correct. That question is, what is that line meant for or mean? Does anybody know?
They never really told me.
Because there's nothing.
It's just, I guess, the yard, probably, like how much yard I have.
No.
No, I don't think so.
Because it's not really labeled, it just says setback. But setback is the dotted line, that I know for a
Yeah,
fact.
right.
You know, if the board approves this, it's gonna be subject to the DEP regs, and that's in your basket, that's all there is to it.
Yeah, you may have
Yeah,
to
so
get a
what,
letter.
is there a way, if we move the fountain backwards,
No.
back, is that still
You have to move it off the property, it's 150 feet off the stream.
150?
You could never build your house or whatever the improvements you have there now.
Yeah.
If that regulation had been in effect way back when the house was built.
Well, okay, so,
So, in addition to that, I'd be curious about that solid line that Mr. Berkowitz is citing, because then if you turn around and continue that to the right portion of that survey, would that encroach on the already existing shed?
Yeah, but it stops.
I know it stops, but
But we don't know
what is
why.
that line?
Yeah.
In addition to that, I have another question.
sure,
When did you purchase this property?
in 2015?
From the time that you purchased it, has it been put up for sale?
Not by me, no,
Okay.
But your father's the owner, correct?
yes,
Did he?
But
no,
there has not been a Realtor for sale sign at all since 2015.
no. I do have a for rent sign right now for the commercial space from a Realtor,
Okay.
but that's it. And
But
that was just
so-
put up
so-
like last
Right,
week.
and so you intend on, before I thought you said you had no intention of renting that commercial space.
No, I do. That's why I got the variance last time when I was here, for the commercial space only, not for the,
You're not renting the residential.
no, the residential is gonna stay as is.
But you're still recruiting for the commercial.
Yes, because that's what I was approved for. Like 2 years ago.
Who's, are you gonna live in there?
In the residential?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
That's, we have that currently.
okay.
Any other questions by the board? Yeah. Mr. Caggiano, do you have any other questions?
No, no more questions.
So you're happy if they get the DEP approval for whatever they want to do, then we're good?
As I see it, they're within the limit of the, like I said, the riparian zone. It's at least 50 feet wide, it could be 150. They would need if they qualified for a permit, they would, at a minimum, they have to have some kind of permit from them. It's within their jurisdiction, unless they decide not to do the walkway and fountain.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chadwick, is there anything else you have?
No.
I have another question. When was the variance granted, Mr. Chair, for this property?
2 or 3 years ago?
There were two variances. The first variance was to build the residential property there because that was not zoned residential. Then
That
there
was when Jimmy was still alive.
Right.
So that's
Then-
longer than
then
2 or
there-
3
Oh,
years?
yeah.
And as
That's way
part-
longer. That's before I've been on the
Right,
board.
and there was,
Okay.
as part of that, the owner, the property owner would live in the house and whatever business would have to be his business, no tenant. They came back later on and the board required the owner of the property to live there, but he could rent the office space.
And what, when was that?
And that's what you have in front
Rent
of
the
you now.
commercial space.
The commercial space.
Okay,
So
That was a couple of years ago.
okay.
17?
Yeah, 17 is,
2017?
yeah.
Yeah, the application number is 17:51.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions by the board?
I just have one more question, it's more of a housekeeping one. The zoning table calls out for a front yard setback existing of 33.5 feet. Then it calls out for proposed setback of 40. Are there any changes in the front yard?
No, other than the driveway that got paved, that was it.
So that's just a typo that you're proposing a larger front yard setback? It says existing is 33.5 and proposed at 40.
Well, I was told that my driveway was expanded because I had the contractor get the permit and just pave the driveway.
This would be for the structure, not the driveway.
Yeah, but no,
it's
there
an,
was.
it's an error.
It's an error, okay.
You're gonna
Yeah,
keep it
probably.
33, you're not gonna cut part of the house off.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, any members of the public have any questions of these witnesses on the testimony given this evening? I hear none and see none. There's nothing else you'd like to add, right?
No, so I just want to clarify. So I need DEP approval, just so I am aware of what needs to be the next
Mr.
step.
Caggiano?
Yes,
For the,
yes.
for the pay?
We would need some kind of letter of non-jurisdiction or permit approval from the DEP.
Okay.
As a condition.
Okay, all right.
That's for the walkway and the fountain.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, are any members of the public who wish to speak in opposition to this application, in support of this application? I hear none and see none. Someone like to make a recommendation?
I'd just like to clarify exactly what we're granting if we grant this.
Well, in the
So,
packet, and let's just go through it item by item. All right, hold on one second.
because there's no zoning letter.
Driveway expansion.
So,
Legalizing a shed,
so we're legalizing one shed,
driveway expansion.
The other shed's coming down.
yeah, driveway expansion.
Driveway expansion.
Based upon what exists, I guess.
It's already been done.
Concrete pads for the air conditioner.
That's, concrete pad is there, but
Yeah.
that.
I needed to repair it, yeah.
Okay,
The
that
same
needs to
thing
be-
with the
that
patio
needs
in
to
front
be
of the
repaired.
The
Shows
things
three-
he didn't get a permit for,
I guess,
that
yeah.
show on this survey are the driveway expansion, the shed that existed when you bought the property but has no record of a variance, the repair and the new pads for the AC units.
All right, is there three pads there? Or?
3, yes.
Yeah.
I need
so
to do
All
three.
the other items would be allowed with just straight permits, they're not a zoning issue.
All right, what about the walkway and the fountain?
Those are,
No, that was-
they
that's
don't
a-
violate any zone regulations.
They don't violate any zoning.
But they're subject to DEP.
Okay.
So they're not gonna be included in any approval if we so choose? This, it's not under, there's no
Well-
issue? Is that right, John?
They have to get DEP approval in order to get their permits to put the fountain and the walkway and the two walkways.
Should we mention that in
So
the
I think we
resolution?
should just put
Can-
it in as condition.
I have a couple of other questions. I know you're hammering that out. I can't get beyond consideration by the board twice, and all of a sudden this shed just appears out of nowhere. In addition to that, what are you what's in the shed and what are you
Well-
storing there?
What am I storing? It's basically just, you know, landscaping supplies like weed whacker, lawnmower, stuff like that, or just extra stuff, pretty much. Nothing like dangerous or hazardous or anything.
I just can't get over the fact that you've appeared before this board twice and all of a sudden
Well,
we're
no, I
dealing with.
No, he didn't come
Only
the
one.
first
He was-
time.
Twice?
He wasn't the owner the
This is
first time.
This is the second time.
This is the second time.
Yep.
Yeah.
The first time was
Twice.
Jimmy originally.
Right.
The second time was him.
I
This is
understand that.
third
I
time.
think the way.
And all of a sudden, we're just not, you know.
Ms.
all of a
Snyder, I
sudden-
think your beef is with the zoning officer, that they didn't catch it the first time. I don't think the beef is with him. If he.
Well,
if
let it
he's
be on the
saying-
record, Mr. Chairman.
And
Okay.
the resolution's also going to state that you're taking down one of the sheds, the one that's furthest from the property line, correct?
Well, yeah, the one that's very like worn down.
Oh, well, that's the one that's not on the property line.
Well, it's
Yeah.
not on the survey, it's behind the stone area.
Yeah, stone area.
Yeah, it's like a cage. It's not really even a shed.
Would someone like to make
Anyway,
a...
based upon all of that, I would be in favor of the application. I think it's fairly de minimis, actually.
I think it's a reasonable application based on the location and the fact that they're not affecting any other residential properties. Do you agree with that, Mr. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Okay. Someone like to frame a resolution?
I guess I'll try it.
Okay.
Application 1916, Paramjit Singh, 19 Littleton Road, Block 454, Lot 5, Zone 0-1. Recommend granting a C variance to legalize a shed, a driveway expansion, the installation of concrete pads, AC units, porch, stairs, and walkway and fountain with the contrary to section 430-35, column 8, with the stipulation that there is a DEP requirement of a permit needed for you to do this,
And he's taking down one shed.
and the removal of one shed.
So, just so I'm clear, once we get, say if the DEP says okay or whatever, permits, or they give me whatever, do I have to come before the board again?
No,
What
you
is
gotta
it?
come back to the...
Just
to
the zoning officer?
To the zoning officer or the
You go
building...
Building department. probably.
Building department at that point,
And that's it?
and they'll give you a building permit.
Okay, all right.
Done.
Okay,
Second ready?
okay, that's been motion and seconded. Any discussion, any further discussion? Nora, call the roll.
Mr. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Jaskowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplan?
Yes.
Mr. Reddy?
Yes.
Ms. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Willens?
Yep.
Chairman Irakane?
Yes. Result is the variance is granted. We'll memorialize this at our next meeting. And you have some due diligence to get your stuff done with the state. Okay?
All right.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Well, I'm being challenged with names tonight, aren't I?
Shows
Okay,
international.
1934, I'm sorry, I'm gonna just use the last names, Huang and Ma. I apologize. If a name doesn't end in a vowel, I struggle with it.
Did fine, Chairman. Stephen Tombalakian, is this thing on? Okay, Stephen Tombalakian, attorney from Wiener Law Group, on behalf of the applicant, No Yu Wong. No Yu goes by Norman, to make it easier.
Norman, okay,
and-
that I can pronounce.
And
Good,
his
thank
wife,
you.
Yanshan Ma. I actually have also with me Mr. Daniel Russell, who's our architect who designed the plan. So if I
Okay.
could have both gentlemen sworn in so they can
Sure.
provide testimony.
Sir, you raise your right hand. You swear affirm testimony you're about to give before the board is true self you got? And for the record, can you state and spell your name?
Yeah, my name is first name is N-E-O-Y-U, last name H-U-A-N.
And you're the owner of the subject property?
Yes.
You can sit, you're sworn, sir. Can you state and spell your name?
Sure. Daniel L. Russell, D-A-N-I-E-L, the middle initial L, R-U-S-S-E-L-L.
And you are a licensed,
Licensed architect, yes.
and all your licenses are in full force and effect?
Yes, they are.
and you've provided testimony either before this board or other boards, and
I believe I have been before this board, that I've been before a number of boards.
and you've been sworn as an expert.
At those boards, yes.
All right, thank you. You're sworn,
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, I
see
feel
here,
that
you know,
you qualify.
I'll stand up.
Okay.
Before we get started, are you gonna have any other witnesses?
No, just for,
And you have a D variance, you
D
realize
variance,
that?
yes. I'm gonna do my best to explain, absent a professional planner, what I believe are the positive.
You're gonna
but-
testify?
I'm not gonna testify, but I'll just point out what I believe is the justification to support the D variance. And perhaps when I explain.
what you want.
Yeah, it's sort of an unusual application, Mr. Chadwick, in that, this originally I filed it as a bulk variance application, because, the Wongs would like to expand their home, and that triggers two C variances, a impervious coverage as well as a, building coverage variance. Both, I believe, are non-conforming at the moment. We'd be expanding those non-conformities. The reason for the expansion is that Mr. Wong has a autistic son, an adult grown son, and who requires care and supervision by, a professional paid caregiver. That caregiver spends the entire evening at the Wong residence looking after the son. She's not supposed to sleep, she's supposed to make sure that he sleeps, if he's hungry, to feed him, take care of him. It's having a staff person in the home is difficult for Mr. and Mrs. Wong. They would like to create a situation where they can create a discrete, separate living quarters for their son and his caregiver, so that during the evening hours, if she needs to prepare some food, she can prepare it in this separate living quarters, so that Mr. and Mrs. Wong can kind of live a peaceful life without having constant interruptions by paid staff. So effectively, when I filed, I thought that this is really, we're not looking for a two-family use. This is a one-family use. It's a living quarters for the disabled son. But Nora correctly pointed out that since there is going to be a caregiver spending the nights watching the son, that it's been the tradition of this board to treat that as a use variance requiring, variance from this board. So that is the context of the application. Right up front, we're not looking for a two-family use. I noticed for that, just to make it, because how do you really describe, I've tried to describe in 5 minutes, something that's still kind of gobbledygook. But effectively, it's gonna remain a single-family home with a separate discrete living quarters, common entrance. There's gonna be all common utilities. It's still one family. It's the Wongs and their son, with a discrete way the caregiver could spend evenings at the home, so Mr. and Mrs. Wong can kind of have a peaceful life.
So you're withdrawing the request for D variance?
No, it is, I believe, as I understand it,
It
it
meets-
still
it meets the
requires.
definition of a two-family house.
Yeah.
So it's a D
Yeah.
variance.
So, yeah, that's why.
Just the fact that it's a second kitchen makes it.
It's a second
That's
kitchen.
the main definition.
Yeah,
of our
but
ordinance.
as I noted in the application or notice, the proposal is not to have this use variance run with the land, as odd as that may sound. This is really, for lack of a better, a personal hardship situation where, just like a mother-daughter situation, where a mother moves in, has a discrete living unit, and then when the need ends, whether the mother no longer lives there, the home is sold, that is then merged back into the home, the second kitchen is removed, and Mr. Wong was willing to provide any and all assurances the board, the township require to make sure that this is not one of those situations where it becomes a two-family. Again, Mr. Russell can explain, it's a common entrance. It's one home.
It's not gonna be a full second kitchen, is it? Is it like an abbreviated kitchen, or?
Maybe Mr. Russell can
You know.
explain that.
I would say it's an abbreviated kitchen, yes. It does have a sink, a small apartment-type stove, an apartment-sized refrigerator, and a dishwasher. But they're all basically set up based on an apartment size.
And you'd be willing that this variance, upon sale of the house, that the second kitchen would be removed?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Or if you don't live in the house anymore, it would be removed?
Yes.
So-
Whichever, you know.
Yeah, it was a deed
whichever
restriction.
preference.
The township has a deed restriction. We've had several applications of a similar nature involving care of siblings up to adults. I think they were all autistic in terms of the.
We did one, I
We
think,
just-
last
We
year.
just did one recently,
ago?
didn't
Yeah,
we?
it was a
We've
town.
had a number of them over the years. Okay, but that's the deed restriction, it's almost a standard form, and so whatever realtor or whomever goes to sell the house, if they do their due diligence, they gotta know it can't be another
Yes,
one.
that's perfectly acceptable.
Just for information purposes, and I don't know if there's anybody else, John would remember, this development, if I remember correctly, this is in an R2M,
Correct.
but I think these are third of an acre house lots, if I remember
I
correctly.
believe this lot's non-conforming, but they are they're substantial lots.
This was not, these lots were not conforming
When they were-
20,
when they were carved
20-some years ago. I'm going back to the 90s probably in the 90s when these houses were built.
The township adjusted the RM zones for whatever reason, I'm not sure, and made most of the development non-conforming.
What makes it unique, and it's a beautiful area, what makes it is that they back onto a town park.
Mhm.
And it's in the town Rossi. It's forever be a park. It's passive wooded area. And so yes, they don't meet coverage, they overdo the impervious coverage, but there's acres and acres of wooded land behind them.
So, I just have a quick question. Your son, with his diagnosis, he doesn't get any accommodations or any protections from the government that would supersede these things and see to it that the family could take care of the child?
You know what, I didn't even research that because, rather than just doing it and saying, we could do it,
Yeah.
we thought the proper way is to have an architectural plan. I remember Mr. Wong came, saw me almost a year ago, and said, what should I do? I said, well, it's parsippany, you gotta do it first class. Get an architect, show the board exactly how you're gonna make it work, and how it's gonna be, remain a single-family home with a comment. I told him, we're not gonna do a two-family type situation where, because I know those prop up around town every now and then. So we planned it to do it the proper way, come and seek permission from this board. And again, we don't have a professional planner, Mr. Chadwick, I do acknowledge that. But I'm a professional planner, but I never testified in that capacity. But I would say that under subsection A of the reasons, in terms of, providing housing accommodations to attend to a disabled family member, it would seem like that's like reason A of the land use law. So we would ask the board to consider the personal hardships of the Wongs and to allow this, again, modest addition. As Mr. Russell's plans depict, it's going to be as camouflaged and as discreet as possible. And again, we're going to provide every legal assurance the board and the township require to confirm that this will not be a two-family situation. Again, technically, we're asking for that, but it's not, that won't run with the land, and just to provide for the Wongs.
Maybe you should give a little description
Yeah,
of
it's just-
the age, the condition.
Yeah.
Of the home or the Wongs?
No,
both,
is it a
probably.
daughter or a son?
Son.
Son.
Yeah, so my son is 20-year-old, and he has very severe autism and a lot of behavioral problems. So he also has sleeping problems. So he would get up at night, walk, run in the house, and actually making the whole family cannot sleep. And this happen quite often. And he also have aggressive behaviors, and he has hurt family members, like resulted in my father going into the emergency room because he pushed him, fell down on his head, and many ditches. So things like that, and we need a relative-free, separate place for him, and because we also will have a caregiver to come to watch him. Basically, someone has to watch him in every second, otherwise he's going to produce
Does
some.
he leave the house during the day, or does he stay?
He leaves the house during the day between 9 to 3 to a day program, and then he comes home after that.
This is a two-story addition? Maybe you could just describe it for the record?
Can you describe for the board the proposed addition, the technical side of it?
Primarily, it's a 1.5, I guess, because the second floor, the only second floor area is the bedroom for the caretaker. That's kind of built partially
Yeah.
in the attic.
Then that actually, I would call that a multifunction room. It can serve as a bedroom for the caregiver when it needs. But also, my son he has occupational therapy and speech therapy that comes, and so that will also provide space for him to do these activities in there. And also for the caregivers, sort of like protection. He constantly search for stuff. Like if you have a purse, a bag, a backpack, or whatever, he constantly search for items. And so I think we'll have that second room, so that at least when for different functions, like to maybe lock up the stuff and have the therapist for him in that room.
So all of his therapy is a matter of the professionals coming to you. He's not transported to other venues to seek his therapy. Am I getting that correct?
In general, in general, correct. But sometimes he would have, visits, office visits.
Where he's transported. Who transports him?
Mostly me at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the caregiver that you're hiring is it a part-time or a full-time basis?
They currently we have actually 2 people. Because it's a complicated situation. He graduated from school legally in June because he became 21, and so he could not go to school anymore. But we had difficulty finding a regular day program for him. So now DDD hire someone during the day to work with him or look after him. So that is a full time, like from 8 to 4 during the day, and then after 4 there is another part-time person who come to do the similar thing.
And so when you said he graduated from school, are you referring to he graduated from high school or he graduated from college?
High school.
High school.
Well, actually.
No, it's not unusual. It's not unusual for
Yeah.
a special needs child to graduate high school
Right.
at the age of 21. I'm just trying to.
They age
Yeah.
out? Is that
They
what it
age
is?
Yeah,
out
they
at
age
21
out.
from
No,
high
they
school.
have
Yeah,
an
basically age
opportunity
out.
to attend high school until 21.
Right.
So, getting back to some of the behavioral issues that you just recited.
Mm-hmm.
So the caregiver, I take it, are you trying to identify this caregiver, or do you already have, or you have?
We have already had some.
Identified her, or him or her.
Yeah.
And so,
Him.
is this caregiver able to control some of the behavioral issues that you cited just before?
It depends. Sometimes yes.
Have you had
sometimes no.
police come to your house at times in regards to some of these behavioral issues?
Well, yes. Once the police come to knock our door because he ran out from the house. Okay, he had the tendency to run out from the house, and he and at that time I was not home. My
Can I rephrase that? Let me rephrase that,
Mhm.
because I'm very sensitive to this topic, and I'm experienced in it. So the police, all right, is it a matter of him running out of the house, or more of the violent aspect of his issues?
not a violent
Okay,
aspect.
just that he's running away. Okay,
Right,
that's all I need to know.
mhm.
All right, thank you. So the police only come when he's like, trying to run out the door?
Yeah.
Right, okay,
Yeah,
got it,
right.
thank you.
Any, you guys have any questions, or?
Yeah, I have a couple.
Go ahead, Mr. Brookowitz.
You said that he leaves he goes someplace from 9 to 3? Or?
Currently, no, but we're in the process of finding a day program.
Right, a day program for him?
Yeah, he's staying home now. I have someone come home to Yeah, from 9 to 3. Yeah.
So if he gets into a program, you'll just need somebody there in the evenings and overnight?
Yeah.
You won't need him there when he's not there, right?
Right. Right. Yeah.
And I'm looking at the plan, I don't know whether to ask you, the architect, but is there a connection between the addition and the existing house?
Yes,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Just
There
so
are
I-
several
that's
doors.
Where it is?
The proposed addition actually incorporates the existing two-car garage. That's the bedroom, the bath, and then the closet. And the existing door from the house to the garage will remain. So you can access from the house or from the living area. The living area is in that 14-foot addition, and then the new two-car garage is out beyond that.
So,
All right,
Mr.
so-
Kirkwood, so they're taking the existing garage, turning it into livable space, and then
Right.
building a replacement garage. It's almost like just,
So is it gonna be like through the laundry room, is that where it is?
Well, coming in from the garage, you would go through a mudroom, laundry room, yes.
Okay, all right. Because it says remove steps, so I didn't know if that was, meant it was
Yeah,
gonna be
that's the
closed off.
steps that currently come from the existing house to the garage.
All
You
right.
step down about.
But that'll
5
still be the opening that'll be,
The opening will stay
so
the
there's
same.
there's no outside or
No,
second
no,
entrance or anything like
There's no outside
that?
entrance from this.
So the new garage, is that then not gonna be an entrance from the garage to the house?
There will be an entrance from the garage to the house, yes.
But there's a common entrance to,
All right,
to
so, but it'll
both.
go through the addition where your son and the caregiver live to get
To get to
the
my
house?
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of a vestibule area there.
Hmm.
It's not open to the apartment for his son. There's a door between the entrance area, the mudroom, whatever you want to call it there.
So I got a quick question back to the caregiver. So the caregiver's the plan is, right? The caregiver stays up all night with the son. Is that right? When does the caregiver, A, get sleep? And B, the plan is to house the caregiver full-time. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's the plan.
So she's gonna be a live-in, you know, for a lack of better term, a live-in nanny, if you will, a live-in caregiver, correct?
Yeah, but it's going to be more than one person, you know. There will be like 3 shifts. It's not like one person living there
There's no
24 hours
shifts.
a day.
It-
There will be
So nobody's
shifts.
sleeping there. Well, if it's 3 shifts, you're dividing
but there's gonna
24
be
hours
a-
by
there's
3.
gonna be- It's designed to have like a resting area, so maybe when the son is sleeping, she
Right.
can rest. But hopefully stay awake, she's being paid to keep an eye on him.
Right.
But it's really not, she won't be like a new resident of the home. This is
When
just
you say 3 shifts, I'm thinking 3 different people.
3 different
Yeah,
people,
yeah.
yes.
That's-
Okay, so who's sleeping there?
No, the son hopefully will sleep at night.
But you want it separate?
But there's
Yeah,
gonna be,
just
there's gonna be a bedroom.
Okay.
But we're hoping that the caregiver will not be sleeping, but just will have a place to quietly, you know, rest
Okay,
and keep
got
an
it.
eye on him.
Thank you.
That room will also be used for other things, the occupational therapy and
Right,
that type of thing.
right,
The therapy's in the house.
right.
So the option when you're dealing with a child with disabilities, you can put them in a group home or a facility, or you can modify your existing home, take care of them, and then have professional help, right? So you have normalized or better family conditions for the rest of your family, staying in your home, and your son's there, okay, under professional care, as I understand. That's your plan. That's why you want this addition, right?
Right.
Okay? And I think that that's clearly commendable, and you understand if the deed variance were given, that your deed restriction means that that can never be a two-family home, and you don't have a separate outside entrance, right? That's clear,
Correct.
understood, okay. Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that all the police calls to this residence is all about more of the child, or excuse me, in this case, the adult, you know, trying to leave the
That's
house when
not
you
our
don't want
that's not our
them, as
concern.
opposed to any type of, you know, violent behavior where there's a control issue. Correct?
Yeah.
That's our presentation, Chairman.
Okay. Any other questions by the board? Any members of the public have any questions of these witnesses on the testimony given? I hear none and see none. Want me to see if there's any objectors before you sum? Any members of the public who wish to speak in opposition to this application? In support of this application? I hear none and see none. Do you have anything else to add?
No, Chairman, I really said it all. Hopefully the board will see that the Longs are doing the right thing, trying to keep their son at home, trying to give him as good a life as he can have, rather than going the institutional route. trying to do it the right way.
Do we need a conference, or can we, or someone make a recommendation?
Yeah, this is the minimest request by the applicant to accommodate the needs of the autistic kid, the family, and to provide a professional services throughout the day, round the clock. So I'm in favor of this application.
Someone frame a resolution?
Application 19:34, Nguyen Wang and Yanshan Ma, 17 Adam Drive, Block 736, Lot 1110, Zone R-2M, granting a DC variance for a two-family home and addition with the stipulation that is deed restricted. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Second ready.
Any discussion? Nora, call the roll.
Mr. Berkowitz.
Yes.
Mr. Jaskowitz.
Absolutely.
Mr. Kaplan.
Yes.
Mr. Reddy.
Yes.
Ms. Snyder.
Yes.
Mr. Willens.
Yes.
Chairman Irakane.
Yes, I commend you on what you do.
Here, here.
Thank you. You're a saint. You're a saint.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thank
We'll
you very much.
memorialize this in next meeting.
Have a great day.
You too.
Good luck.
Do we need a 5-minute break at this point, or
I have to recuse myself.
you have to recuse yourself?
I do.
We're gonna take a 5-minute break while Mr.
Me too.
O'Neill gathers his troops.
Yep.
You're next, Mr. O'Neill.
We still have I can't stay.
Call case 1927 Forge Pond Developers, C/D variance bifurcated application, construct an apartment building. Mr. O'Neill.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Joseph O'Neill of Garofalo O'Neill Ruggiero, here on behalf of the applicant, Forge Pond Developers, Powder Mill Plaza West. This is a development to replace the existing shopping center with a new building consisting of residential units. So I'd like to get started the minute my witness comes back. Not yet. Let's go ahead and call Mr. McClellan to describe the project.
Could you raise your right hand? You swear or affirm testimony you're about to give before the board is true to help you God?
I do.
For the record, can you state and spell your name?
Yes, Patrick McClellan, MCCLELLAN.
And you are going to provide what type of testimony?
That's correct. I'm a civil engineer, provided testimony before the board on many occasions.
And all your licenses are in full force and effect?
Yes, they are.
Thank you. You've been sworn and you've been qualified here before. Thank you.
Mr. McClellan will be referring to slides, I believe, this evening. You've provided copies of these to the board secretary, is that correct?
That's correct.
These are colorized versions of what set of plans?
These are, this is the site, the concept plan that was submitted, dated August 8, 2018.
Joe, we're going to mark this as a A1?
We're going to mark these as A1, yes. If you please refer to page numbers as you go through, Mr. McClellan.
Certainly. The board won't mind if I hover over here. Right, so the property in question tonight is the shopping center Powder Mill Plaza West. I'm sure everybody's familiar with it, on the westbound side of Route 10. Getting near the Denville border, I believe it's 2900 Route 10. It's block 18 in lot 8. Currently has several commercial and retail stores, some of which are not occupied, as I understand at the moment. But the applicant tonight is proposing to convert this site from a commercial and retail site to a residential site. If I referring to sheet 2 of 3 of the variance plan. Maybe you just go over the point a little bit. I apologize, I don't have a laser pointer. Sheet 2 has the proposal superimposed on top of the existing conditions. In a lighter text, you can see that there's an L-shaped building that exists on site now. That site is fully developed with parking, with drainage. It's connected to the various utilities of the municipality. Basically, it's a fully operational site. It has 2 access points to Route 10, one here at the easterly end, and then another one here somewhere about the midpoint. We are proposing to remove the existing improvements on site, take the building down, and to close one of the access points down near the east end and create a new boulevard-style access toward the center of the property. You would enter the property coming westbound on Route 10. You would descend down because, as you're probably aware, the property sits low below Route 10. So you would come down to the front of the building, and then you'd either go left or right, depending on your parking assignment and where you're going to park. And we are proposing a U-shaped building that would have half a floor of parking at the ground level at the back side. That's what these parking spaces are here. And then above that, there would be 3 levels of residential apartments. Now, on a previous version of the plan, those 3 levels of parking were one solid building. With this revision, we have modified the building to appear as 2. The center core has been removed. That's where the retail space was originally proposed for this project, which is no longer a component of this project. So now essentially what we have is 2 L-shaped residential towers that from the parking lot appear to be 3 stories high. Total of 180 residential units are proposed. 144 of those are proposed to be 1 bedroom. 30 of those are proposed to be 2 bedroom, and 6 are proposed to be 3 bedroom. The site, because it's on the frontage of Route 10, unlike a lot of other developments we've talked about over the years, there's really no opportunity for parking off-site here. So here's a situation where we have enough property that we can propose excess parking. We are required by residential site improvement standards 332 spaces, and this plan proposes 413 spaces. So we have about approximately 80 parking spaces in excess of what's required by the RSIS. And just a reminder, I know the board knows this, but the RSIS has already considered guest parking, so this is above and beyond that criteria.
Now, when you said existing property, you meant existing development property.
That's correct, Mr. O'Neill, and I'll clarify that this, because I was going to roll into a talk about stormwater management. This property has a stormwater management system on it from its previous development proposal. This development actually less intensifies the use of pavement on the property. There's a reduction of pavement, therefore there's a reduction in impervious cover, which is a benefit for stormwater management. So we will be keeping the existing stormwater management tools in place, and then we'll be further enhancing them by then further lowering the impervious cover. So the development scope is actually less pavement than is out there today. So. In order to accomplish this development, we do need some variance relief. And as you know, the applicant has opted to bifurcate this, so we're here tonight for the variances. We have some, site planning details to assist in the evaluation of those variances, but we do recognize that there'll be part 2 to this should the board act favorably tonight. We'll have to do some site plan detailing, but tonight we are asking for variance for the use. Again, the 180 residential apartments would require a use variance. We have the building proposed calculated to have a height of 47.17 feet, where 35 feet is allowed in this zone, and incidentally, this is the office transition zone. So we would be asking for relief for building height, and then also for building number of stories. As we interpret this, it's 3 full stories of apartments over a half a story of the parking at the ground level. So we believe this is 3.5 stories. So we're asking for relief for that, where 2.5 stories are permitted. We're asking for relief for lot coverage by building. We are, excuse me for a second, lot coverage by building permitted is 15%, and we are proposing 18.6%. And then lot coverage for all surfaces, we are permitted 60%. The existing condition today is 70.9% impervious cover. We are proposing 64.1%, so a reduction of approximately 7% of the impervious surfaces. We are also asking for variance relief for wall height in the front yard. We're currently proposing some tandem walls along Route 10. Route 10 is up here. The site is going to be down below. As you stand in Route 10 and look at the site, you don't see these walls, but they're necessary to make the grade up between the highway and the site. We're going to design those as tiers no greater than 6 feet in height. So we're asking for variance relief for walls of a height of 6 feet in the front yard where 4 feet is required. And I just want to point out for the board's information, the plan shows a tunnel at this location. Our intention was to enhance the circulation. We thought we have an opportunity here to bridge over the parking beneath and have one additional circulation. We don't think that that's actually going to work once we got looking closer at the grades and considering emergency services vehicles. So, but just for the board's edification, we're going to withdraw that component of the plan. If we proceed with site plan, should the board approve it, there will not be a tunnel here, and these 2 parking areas will have dead ends, just like these do. And that's, we could not get the clearances and still have enough room for the structure in order to support that. But from a wall perspective, 6 feet height per tier would be our maximum wall height in the front yard. And then we did do a slope analysis. One of the comments we received from your engineer was asking for us to review the slopes. And basically, we do require relief from your steep slope ordinances, and they're all regarding disturbances of slopes that are already previously disturbed by the previous development. The road embankment up to Route 10. Around at the back of the site, there are some steep slopes, but we're actually not disturbing those because at the back of the site, we are not making any changes to the existing buffer that's back there. We do have some steep slopes along the edges here that are going to be affected. So we are expecting to exceed your steep slope ordinance for disturbances and are asking for that relief as well.
How much relief are you asking for?
I'm sorry?
How much relief are you asking?
If I can. If I may. Use this electronic submission thing. Okay. All right, so we are asking for variance relief in each of the 3 categories. In the 15 to 20% category, we are permitted to disturb 35% of the slopes that meet that criteria. We are disturbing 0.08 acres. We are allowed to disturb 0.04 acres. So 0.04 of an acre over in the 10 to 15% category. In the 15 to 20% category,
These are man-made steep slopes.
these are all man-made steep slopes around the
Why don't we
perimeter.
postpone this if the board approves the use variance to the site plan and determine whether or not, in fact, conditions fall in the steep slope ordinance?
All right.
They're already made. Let's
Yeah,
not get-
we've bifurcated the application
I think
anyway.
we'll get
Perhaps
hung
it's
up on
best.
something that's not really.
There was a question about how the parking breaks down, Mr. McClellan. Could you get to that?
It's, yeah. Okay, we have, and I apologize, again, I'm not used to the small print here, but underneath the building, these spaces here, we have 46 parking spaces on the north side, and we have 43 parking spaces on the south side. Here in the front of the building, we have 4 handicap accessible spaces here.
Mr. McClellan, I hate to interrupt you, but you can't use your microphone as a pointer and talk at the same time.
Unless he holds it backwards.
I should have brought my headset. All right, so I'll have to point, which is not good for a guy that's 5'7". Okay, then we continue the parking closest to the front of the building, where we have 13 parking spaces here. Then we have some banks of parking where we have 20 in this area, 20 in this area. We have 36 spaces here, 36 spaces here, and then closest to Route 10, 10 spaces along here, and 24 spaces along closest to the roadway. And on the other side of the access roadway, we have 26 spaces here, and we have 18 spaces here. We do not have any parking spaces around the east side of the building, but as you go to the back, the spaces at the rear of the building, we have 73 parking spaces. And then along the west edge of the building, we are proposing 35 parking spaces.
Now, before you walk away, there are improvements already existing in the back that were done with the original development. There's a, see, there you go. There's a retaining wall back there. Is that correct?
There is.
Could you walk the board through what's going on in the back and how we're not disturbing that? There you go.
There's the pointer.
Well, that was the plug.
Mr. Chairman, if we can take just a 2-minute break.
Yeah, let's take a couple minutes.
Back up here.
Well, there's no promise we're over them.
Like your style, Mr. McClellan. Well, maybe you could just go ahead and continue with that testimony about
Yes.
the improvements in the back.
I will. The wall Mr. O'Neill's referring to, there's an existing wall that runs along this line that exists today, was part of the construction of the original site. That wall, the high side is the parking area here, the low side is behind it. That wall height is approximately, 1.5 to 2 feet at this corner. As the wall comes to about the 1/3 point, it's about at its highest, maybe 6-7 feet in height, and then maintains, 4 to 5 feet along here, until it comes to the other end of the parking area where it peters down to about 2 to 3 feet. That wall exists. We do not intend to modify that wall or make any changes. That wall is primarily there to allow for an underground detention system that exists in this part of the parking lot, which we are going to be continuing to use.
Now, the only modification that we're proposing in the back, which is not on the plans, we are modifying the application to allow for a solid wood fence regarding possible headlights to the back. Is that true?
That is true, Mr. O'Neill. So that in addition to the existing buffer that's being maintained in this area, we can add additionally a fence along this line here to further assist in the blockage of any headlights that might occur at night.
And that's, even though the parking exists there now, we're going to add that because we expect maybe a little more traffic back there?
Those, you know,
I
again,
don't want you to testify about traffic.
yeah, understood. There's more desirable places for residents on the site, but I think your comment's a good one. There'll probably be more cars back there as a residential use than, you know, as a commercial use. So we want to take the extra step to make sure we have the screening.
Yes, but there'll be no trucks or deliveries or anything like that back there.
Correct. That's correct.
Mr. McClellan, as I drive around the state, you frequently see areas like this with retail on the bottom and residential on the top, which seems to make a lot of sense in my mind, that you're giving people more bang for their buck. Wouldn't this be a great spot for something like that?
Mr. Chairman, I think that's an excellent question for our planner, who's prepared to talk about this section of Route 10 and its current state of retail sales and some of the troubles other properties have had. So if you don't mind, I'd like to defer that to Mr. McDonough, who will be here later today.
Okay.
I'm supposed to talk slow till he gets here, though.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'll talk slower. In regards to that fence that you were talking about that's going to aid in the headlights, can you refresh my memory what other buffer assistance is there currently that assists the residential part in the back there?
Yes. Again, the wall in this area is low on the north side, so the exposure of the wall faces to the dwellings here. But in this space, there's a 65-foot natural buffer that's loaded with mature trees.
So let me stop you there, please, because how high are these trees?
I believe some of them are as high as 100 feet.
Okay.
So, and again,
When you say some, would you say half, the majority?
I'm going to defer that to our planner because I know he's
Okay.
prepared. We were very conscientious of this buffer, and I know he's prepared to give better detail on the buffer.
Yes,
But
we do have some photos for that.
yeah, and we recognize some comments from the agencies about maintaining the buffer, so we were very mindful not to make any changes to diminish the buffer.
Sorry. Fly.
Got him.
Did I get him?
Yeah,
Oh, good. First shot. Sorry.
Mr. Neal, would you like me to go through?
Fly was bothering Mr.
Can you go
Chadwick.
through the report?
I can. I'm going to leave this here, though. Thank you for your patience. Didn't quite work out as well as we thought it would.
Is this building going to be higher than the existing building from the ground level up?
I don't know that I can answer that question, pal. I can research that and get an answer, but I can't give you an answer at this second.
Is there some advantage to keeping the building in the rear of the property? The main part of the building in the rear of the property and not moving it forward?
There, from a site plan perspective, there is. we have to traverse down from the elevations on Route 10. And we need distance to do that. So the original plan, having the building at the back of the site, made a lot of sense. We're basically mimicking that location. We're taking a different strategy on grading the site. We're bringing the cars all the way in so that we can actually get the front parking area more level than it is today. It's quite steep at parts today. But the building is at the, favors the back of the property for that reason.
Square footage of the existing building compared to square footage of the new building.
The, our building is U-shaped. The existing building is essentially the left wing and the straight piece. It does not have a right wing.
So this one's gonna be bigger.
This building is bigger. The additional piece is further away from the rear property.
And how many stories?
3 residential stories.
And a garage underneath?
And then a garage underneath.
Garage is gonna be a little below grade then?
Yeah, as the property descends to the back, it makes for, if this were a house, you'd call it a walkout basement, but it'll be a walkout garage. So it works out very nicely to have a garage, you go into the back under the garage and then access the apartments from the front, the level of the first of the apartments from the front.
Will there be an elevator from the garage to the building?
There will be. And you also just, our plans are not so clear, but it's important to, because we wanted to break the mass of the building down, that this area of the building, that's only garage. There's no building over top of that. So that area is gonna be, it's gonna be like passive recreation area. So the building mass is broken into 2. And that's a significant change from the original submission of this application a couple of months back.
Do we have any kind of artist rendering of this?
We do.
I can't talk to it, but I can post it.
You have it on the
I feel like we're in slow motion.
Not really.
It's like watching Tanaka pitch.
Yeah, really.
You gonna mark this, Joe?
We are.
A2?
Yeah, we'll mark this as A2 for this evening.
That's the piece, that's the center
Put that
court.
on a tripod.
A2, A3?
Let's just go.
Really?
And 4.
Why don't you walk us through these?
A2 is far left, A3 is right.
Identify it and then go from there. Yep, on
Yeah.
the left.
Yeah,
Looks like the Russian buildings from Prague.
I know, don't tell them. All right, so this will be A2. A2 has a title, Powder Mill Plaza West Proposed Apartment. This is a vantage point. Actually, this is the original submission that we had submitted first. And we have the 2 to illustrate the change that was made by the removal of the 3 stories over the parking in the center here. So this is one building.
Jumping to A3. Now you're
I may have missed it. Did we say who prepared these?
These were prepared by the project architect, Aric Gitomer, A-R-I-C, G-I-T-O-M-E-R. And on the,
One shows a prior proposal which has been abandoned.
yep, and that's A2.
Let's identify that one.
Right. And then,
A3.
and then A3
Carol Merrill's hands.
is the same title, Powder Mill Plaza West Proposed Apartments by Eric Gittimer, Architect. This rendering is the same vantage point and represents the current proposal. And in this proposal, you're standing, Route 10 is over where I'm at, and you're looking sort of in a northwesterly direction. And this is the area where building has been removed. In a previous proposal, we had a 7,000 square foot retail space there and some apartments over top of that, but we've taken that away. And then,
I understand the architect wasn't available tonight, right?
that's correct.
That is
So
correct.
we can't ask whether or not this rendering or elevations matches the current latest architectural plans. Because my recollection is there was a more diversity in terms of the wall construction than shows on A3? Is that what?
A3.
This is A3.
A3.
Mr. Chadwick, in this area here,
In the front, there was, that's, as I'm looking at, it looks like it's all brick.
yeah,
No, there's,
is that the one in your car?
Am I seeing
no,
something
it's not.
wrong?
The,
I know I made a comment about the rear, that's a different issue. But looking at this, it appears to look all brick. Am I wrong? Maybe.
you are wrong. There is a variety of materials in the front,
Yeah.
two different types of materials, a
Okay,
lighter and
this-
darker colored material, which is represented on A2 and A3. You can see the difference in the units in the front on the far right of the edge, the lighter color.
Would the board
And the
want me to
darker-
bring this closer so you can take a look?
How wide is that opaque?
That's a different color too. I don't know.
Approximately?
Yeah.
The architect's
Look
not
like
here,
a
we can't-
stone.
The architect's
Yeah,
not
that's
here.
right.
Neither apparently is the planner. We can defer that question for
About 100 feet wide.
a little later.
About 100 feet wide?
Yeah.
So the center's gonna be open, is that?
Yes.
That's open space now for recreation or whatever. And so when you're looking from Route 10, you'll be able to look straight through the property back to the trees and everything behind.
That's
it.
correct.
Okay, there's
You
no
got it,
building.
Mr. Willis.
And that's about 100 feet.
About 100 feet.
The trees that are shown in Exhibit A3, do you know whether that's a Photoshop building in, with the existing background, or is
We
that
do
an
have,
artistic license? Do we have?
We
any-
do have actual pictures from the neighborhood that will be presented.
Okay.
So we'll have the real photos. Okay.
We are in receipt of an updated memo from Keller and Kirkpatrick, updated on 8/21/2019 in response to the submission of these documents. And I'll just go through these for the board's edification. Under engineering comments and recommendations, starting on page 2, item 1 was asking for a property owners list to be placed on the title sheet of our plans. We acquired the names from an internet database, but it's not a certified list. That's why the comment is partially satisfied, and we'll put the certified list on our plan so that we can be fully satisfied. Item 2, we are now showing a proposed critical slope analysis on sheet 3 of our plans, and I testified to that a little bit earlier today. Item 3, architectural elevation should be provided, and that comment is now satisfied. Sheet P3 has been amended to depict building elevations from our architect, Mr. Gittimer. Item 4, it is noted that the project will require tiered retaining walls. The wall details should be provided on the site plan set, including a cross-section of a typical tiered wall. We have not put that on the plan yet, but we certainly can provide that. Item 5 notes a noted source on the cover sheet for the zoning boundaries. We had incorrectly referred to a different municipality. We've corrected that, so 5 is taken care of. Item 6, applicant should testify regarding the COA units and the 7,000 square foot of proposed mercantile space. And again, in this iteration of the plan, there is no 7,000 square foot of mercantile space, and our planner will provide the testimony regarding the COA units.
Just one comment that I understand the township has a COA consultant. Have you been in contact with the consultant for the COA? I would recommend.
Okay, item 7, the applicant should testify regarding any existing or proposed buffer areas. And largely, I'd like to also defer that to our planner again, as he's got actual photographs of the buffer at the rear of the property. Item 8, applicant should testify regarding proposed sidewalk or walking paths for pedestrian use, including any open space or recreation areas. We now have a recreation area, as we discussed, and we do recognize that there may need to be some sidewalks to bring persons to that area. We also kind of thought that level of detail might be more appropriate at the time of site plan, so we have no concern for that, but I'd like to address that if this board approves the application at the time of site plan. Item 9, applicant should testify if any fencing or screening is proposed for the parking area along Route 10. For screening purposes, the parking along Route 10 is screened by its topography, because again, Route 10 is high and the parking lot is low. So as you're on Route 10, you won't see those spaces in the front yard. However, there would need to be some sort of a fall protection barrier at the top of that wall. So that would be part of the wall design. The item 10, the plan should provide proposed parking counts for each proposed parking lot section. That is contained on the plans, and I had provided a run through of that a little bit earlier. Item 11, applicant should provide a copy of the site survey partially satisfied with a reduced copy, and we'll make sure that a full-size signed and sealed version of that survey is delivered to Nora's office for the file. Item 12, the plan should note all permits from outside agencies, and that comment has been satisfied. We have that note on our sheet 1 of the plan. Item 13, an applicant should testify with respect to any off-site improvements required for the utility connections. Again, we're not at site plan yet, so we don't know everything there is to know, but we have received some comments from the sewer and water department. So we do know that we have to investigate the pump station at South Powder Mill 1. We have to look at the gravity lines. We don't have any concerns for the capacity of the treatment ability. That's the big one. And we don't have any concerns for the gallonage from the water department, which is also the big concern. So we're comfortable with those. But whatever other details we have to address during the site plan and permitting process, we will take care of. Item 14, applicant should testify regarding any environmental constraints for this property, including the disposition of the existing gas easement as shown on the township tax map. Again, this property presumably is fully served by all the utilities, so we are aware that there's going to be gas service on the site, there's going to be water service on the site. We don't know yet if those services are fully compatible with this layout or if there'll need to be modifications, but that's a very common thing to overcome during the reconstruction or the redevelopment of a property. So we're confident that we can address those successfully at the time of site plan. And then on page 4, under additional comments, the applicant has provided a conceptual stormwater management report indicating that this is major development, and that is true because we have a redisturbance of more than 1 acre of land per the state's regulations for stormwater management. This is major development, and that means we have to follow certain rules for stormwater management. And in this case, we comply with the water quantity calculations, because we're reducing the impervious surfaces, that strategy lowers the discharge rate going into the storm sewer system. The second component for stormwater is water quality enhancement. That's been satisfied because we do not increase the impervious cover by more than 1/4 of an acre. And in this case, that's a good thing. That means we don't have to do a formal water quality device, but we are getting an extra benefit here anyway, because when we replace parking lot pavement with building roof, that's actually water quality enhancement. It's not something we can quantify, but it is something that gives a real improvement to water quality in the field. So we're enhancing the water quality by the nature of the new development. And then the final component for stormwater is groundwater recharge. And this site, because it is deemed a metropolitan planning area and it is a redevelopment site, it does not ask for water recharge, and so we do not provide that. So we satisfy all 3 prongs of stormwater management. Item 2, under additional comments, proposed number of parking spaces located outside each entrance should be verified. Yeah, well, there's slight discrepancy between the architect's plan and the site plan. At this time, the site plan leaves room for the eventual consideration of the building structure. So at site plan, there'll be some minor shuffles of things, but the site plan is the prevailing document when it comes to the parking spaces, and probably will change on a minor basis as the building plans develop.
And the last 2 will be handled by other witnesses, so I have no further questions for this witness.
I'm not familiar with commuting from Route 10. Are there buses that go by to like New York and everything on Route 10?
Yeah, we'll defer that to Mr. Steiger.
Well, no, it's more of a site issue than that. If there are buses and the buses are obviously traveling east in the morning, will sidewalks be provided along Route 10 so that I would guess maybe to Yesenda Drive or going the other direction? I was never a proponent of sidewalks on Route 46 until I now have an office on Route 46. And now I realize that it would be a hell of a lot nicer to have sidewalks, so you don't have to walk through the grass and get all full of mud.
Yeah.
And you don't want to walk on the street because people drive like animals. So
I know, I drive Route 46. The DOT is going to have a lot to say about whether or not sidewalks are allowed. We've had applications where the DOT has opted in both directions. In one case, they wanted sidewalks. In another case, recently, they didn't want sidewalks. They've got their bigger pictures. They're worried about their drainage system, and sometimes they feel like the sidewalks and curbings can cause them some problems. So that's something that would be fleshed out at the time of site plan and during the DOT application that this application would require.
And sidewalks don't necessarily guarantee bus stops, do they?
No.
Might be helpful to know where the bus stops are in reasonable proximity. I think there's one on the Powder Mill Drive entrance, but that's...
maybe your traffic guy can figure that out.
There is, I can answer that, there is.
Yeah, but how do you
Sorry?
get to it?
From there, you can't get to it.
No.
Can't get there from here?
You'd have to walk, you'd have to go along 10
Have to walk up
east
the Powder
and
Mill
then
Drive.
cross over at the intersection, and crossing at that intersection,
Yeah.
you better be pretty swift.
You would need a ride to get to
Like
the offices.
crossing 46 and Bevelwood Road?
Yeah, it's worse.
It'd be worse, probably.
Well, but people do it every day.
Yeah, that's a chaos.
Could be an issue.
Any more questions for this witness?
I just want, on the impervious coverage sake, just want to make sure I understand. We're going to have a whole new wing of a building, which is not there now, okay, which is open space. And we're still having all the area that's currently parking lot, that's all still going to be the same. So how are we having less impervious coverage?
There's
because of the material you're going to use?
No, because genuinely, the parking design that is being proposed is going to be fairly efficient. there's areas where pavement can be removed and grass can be placed. So there'll be some island areas, there'll be around the perimeter, there'll be some,
There's island areas in there now.
yeah, but there's actually not that many out there. So when you add up all the modifications to allow for this parking lot, you know, it's a 500 square feet over here, it's 200 square feet over there, it's 1,000 square feet over there.
Any other questions by the board? Any members of the public have any questions of this witness on the testimony given this evening?
So, in the morning.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Come on up. Come on up. Get yourself a microphone and identify yourself, okay?
Hi, my name is Ravi Parlapal.
How do you spell that, sir?
Last name is Parlapal, Parlapall. First name is Ravi, Ravi.
Thank you.
What's your
I
question?
live on 15 Granada, right behind it. In the mornings, and that's my first concern here. Route 10 is a parking lot.
This is time for questions. You have a question of this witness on what he testified to today?
Sure. So how is it going to address the business of Route 10 with like adding more cars?
Well, there's
to
a
the-
traffic expert that they're going to use, Mr. Steiger. I'm sorry, I was going to say Schneider. Steiger will testify to the traffic issues. We're only dealing right now with the testimony of Mr. McLaughlin and what questions you might have.
Okay, I think that's all. Yeah.
Okay. Any other members of the public have any questions of this witness? I hear none and see none.
There's one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please come forward.
Barbara Marzloff,
How do you spell your last name, ma'am?
B-A-R-B-A-R-A, Marzloff, M-A-R-Z-L-O-F-F. I live at 19 Granada, right behind all this. It's going to be so high from what I can see.
What's your question? What's your question?
How high is the wall going to be to block
Which wall?
in the back between the buffer or whatever and our house?
The fence?
Is it gonna, the fence is gonna stay about the height it is? Is it gonna be higher?
It would, make sure they hear me. The wall will remain as it is, that's behind the building. On top of that wall will be a fence 6 feet high, and it will run the length of the wall, and it'll be of a material that'll block the headlights. So you'll get an extra 6 feet from the top of the wall as fencing.
How much higher is it gonna be than the fence is right now?
6 feet.
No, is there a fence now?
Yeah, I have not observed the fence there now, but I imagine it's a chain link fence in disrepair.
Yes.
So it'll essentially be a replacement of that fence. So it'll be more effective, it'll be solid, and it'll be the entire length of that parking area. That fence is intended to screen the headlights, you know, so and 6 feet is even higher than the vehicle, so that's plenty of height to screen the headlights.
And the building itself is gonna be so high that the people are going to be able to look right down into our yards. The privacy will be gone.
We do have some exhibits of that buffer that I think would be better to talk about your questions with that.
Because the property goes downhill, so when you come to us people in the development.
Ma'am, you just-
Excuse me. You have to ask questions at this point. If you have a question about the height, I think he answered that. You're not moving, what is it, a berm or something behind?
It's a wall.
It's a wall. You're not moving the wall. You may be replacing the existing fence with a solid fence. Okay, and maybe we can get some.
Can you make the fence higher?
Well, we've
Excuse
got
me.
an exhibit.
Well, that's a question. Hold on, that's a question.
No, I'm talking. I want you guys to provide for the neighbors on Granada exactly what the angle is going to be from the rooms in the building, and where they will see what they will see in the back, and can they see into the yards? Okay.
Right.
You know, get your protractors out and, you know, go back to Geometry 101 and tell us what the angles are going to be, okay?
Because you're gonna have 3 stories
Yeah,
high as opposed to.
Excuse me, You cannot testify at this point. You can ask questions. I know it's difficult because you want to get your point out, okay? And I understand that. And you will have an opportunity when they've presented their case to testify, exactly. But what I'm trying to do at this point is to get a diagram as to exactly what it's going to look like from the third story, second story, and first story, if it doesn't matter, beyond the fence, okay? Okay?
What's gonna stop people from, all these, residents that are gonna be in these apartments, what's gonna stop them from coming down into our property?
Well, one, that fence will be there.
Wait, but the fence doesn't go all the way.
Well-
I had somebody the other night that jumped my fence going into my yard at midnight, and I had to yell out the window because my air conditioner was broken, or I would have never.
Excuse me, this is not something that this zoning board can deal with, people jumping fences. If you have a problem with people jumping fences, you go to the police department, okay? You file the necessary paperwork or whatever it is with the police department.
But I'm looking
People
to see
jumping in,
how much privacy you're gonna give.
I'm trying,
Isn't that a question?
I'm trying to get them to tell you exactly what you're going to have, all right? But we cannot control people wandering neighborhoods. All right?
That's beside the fact.
Okay. Any other
How much
questions?
privacy is the fence gonna give?
Any, okay,
We will
thank you.
have an exhibit to show you the answer to that question.
Any other questions?
I have a question. Can you explain the current wall and how high it is, please?
At the back, sure.
Yes. You don't have to show me, just tell me how high it is.
At the east end, it's about 2 feet. As you walk westerly,
Yep.
it goes from 2 to about 7 feet at about a third of the way across the property. And then as you walk the rest of the way across the property to the other end, it's about 3 feet high. So
Okay,
it, you know, it
goes
varies
from-
with the.
It goes from 2 feet to 7 feet, back down to 3 feet.
Yeah.
As we travel west. And so, and then that fence is going to be 6 feet above the 2 feet, 7 feet, and 3 feet. Am I
Correct.
getting that correct?
You got it.
Okay, thank you.
Would you know the distance between the fence and the houses on Grenada?
The,
That physical house.
not the physical houses, to the property line between 65 and 70 feet.
65 and 70 feet from the proper, from the
From the
building
property.
to your property line?
From the fence
Wall.
that we would propose to the property line. Because we have a 65-foot buffer at the back that we're not
The building
touching.
is about 100 feet wide.
Yeah.
I mean, 100 feet wide.
Okay, so, and there's trees?
And there's trees.
Okay. Let's do what I ask, and then maybe that, at least we can get over that hump.
Yeah, and I think what would be helpful is the density of that, the tree line there too.
We'll address both concerns.
I would make the recommendation that sometime between now and the next hearing on this case, everyone go up behind that building and take a stroll. All the board members, okay?
Yeah, because it's obvious we're concerned about
Yeah,
that.
because so we can get a, I mean, I've looked out the back of that building from the restaurant there many times, but I can't remember, I can't even remember seeing a fence, so.
It's a wall, but, Mr. Collins, do you know why the variance in the height as you go westerly is from 2 feet to 7 feet back down to 3 feet? Why isn't it just 7 foot?
Well, there's a change in the grade at the top of the wall, and there's a change in the grade at the bottom of the wall. Just so happens that, you know, that's how the wall works out.
I've driven back there, and I guess I haven't noticed the change in grade, so that's why I'm asking.
Yeah. I mean, it's because it's such a long run, Mr. Willens, that you know, it's not a drastic change. The bigger change is on the downhill side of the wall, the topography at the base of the wall.
Where's this existing fence? Is it on the back property?
I hadn't seen the existing fence, but it's from the residents' comments, it sounds like it's in the vicinity of the top of the wall, and it sounds like it's chain link and in disrepair, so it wouldn't offer the screening that, you know, would be wanted for headlight protection.
Any other questions of this witness? You got time to bring somebody else on at this
I'd
point?
like to bring Mr. Steiger up.
But you have your
Get
plan.
back. Wasn't surprised.
Sir, you raise your right hand. You swear a firm testimony you're about to give before the board is true, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
For the record, can you state and spell your name?
Joseph Steiger, S-T-A-I-G-A-R.
And you're a traffic engineer?
Professional engineer.
And all your licenses are still in full force and effect?
Yes, they are.
And you provided testimony before this board, you've been qualified before this board?
In that capacity, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, he's been sworn and
Thank you.
qualified.
Thank you.
Mr. Steiger, you've prepared a report in connection with this application which has been submitted to the board.
Yes.
Why don't you go through your findings in that report? I heard some of the questions, so try to...
Focus on that, yes. The traffic impact study that we prepared, typical traffic impact study where we analyze existing conditions. We took traffic counts specifically at the intersections of Powder Mill Road and Route 10, and then Yasenda Drive and the Pelican Ski Shop and Route 10. So we got the most easterly and most westerly signalized intersections of the along Route 10. We took them during the typical peak hours of the roadway, as well as the typical peak hours of what a residential development will generate as well. 7 to 9 a.m. and 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. A specific characteristic of Route 10, and I drive it every day or just about every day, is that most of the traffic is eastbound in the morning and westbound in the evening. It's very directional. I go westbound in the morning, so I miss all the bumper-to-bumper traffic going eastbound and vice versa in the evening. So I see it quite often. Secondarily, we analyze how much traffic or the change in traffic that would be generated by changing it from a retail shopping center to a residential mid-rise apartment building. The trip generation rates that we use to make that assessment, which we will need to get a DOT permit for this as well, and we'll be using those same trip generation rates that the DOT uses. I made a comparison. They're the Institute of Transportation Engineers trip generation rates. It's the Bible in the industry of projecting traffic for future sites, as well as analyzing existing sites to give an apples to apples comparison. We do have an old, tired shopping center currently. One of the reasons that we're before this board is the shopping center has seen its days. And so to make a direct comparison, although we did do it, and I'll provide that information, of what it generates today, in actual numbers, to what it will in terms of the a residential development, I don't think is a fair one, but we did take that into account, and I'll go into that. But when I take the ITE trip generation rates of the shopping center of the size that we have versus the 180 residential units, there will be a decrease in the amount of traffic. In the morning peak hour, we all know that the retail is not generating its maximum in the morning peak hour. It's going to be more in the evening peak hour, but nonetheless, in the morning peak hour, there'll be a reduction of 126 trips being generated when the change of use occurs. In the PM peak hour, 343 trips will be, the site will be, is a reduction in trip generation going from the existing retail to the residential. In terms of the amount of traffic that 180 units, residential units, will generate during the peak hours, we have 61 trips in the morning peak hour and 78 trips in the evening peak hour. So what we did was we took that additional traffic. We know we have existing conditions. We counted traffic on Route 10 at the signalized intersections. We have existing volumes. We bumped those volumes up because we know by the time this development is occupied in the future, 2 years, 3 years from now, we will have an increase in traffic. DOT has growth rates, annual growth rates for Route 10. We applied those. And then we took that additional traffic, the 61 trips in the morning and the 78 trips in the evening, superimposed that on those adjusted existing volumes. We did not take credit for the traffic that would be removed at those two intersections by taking away the retail development. So our analysis is very conservative in that sense. We do find that we do have constraints at the intersections currently. However, when we go from existing conditions to that adjusted existing to conditions to the future build conditions, we have very minimal impact on those intersections. Conceivably, we will actually see an improvement, as I pointed out, to Route 10. Will we actually see it? Probably not, because it's, like I said, the eastbound is a parking lot, particularly in the afternoon hours. I'm sorry, westbound, eastbound in the morning peak hours. But the reduction in traffic that this site will generate will have some improvement. All these numbers are going to be analyzed by the DOT. We need to submit our trip generation analysis to the DOT, but as I said, I'm very confident that we will prove to the DOT that there will actually be a reduction in the potential for trip generation of this site. We do make a recommendation of retiming the Powder Mill Road intersection with Route 10 by taking some green time off of Route 10 and putting it on the northbound, southbound directions. Route 10 operates fairly well, and by taking several seconds of green time off of Route 10 and transposing it onto Powder Mill Road, we can make that intersection even work better. We will present that and make that a recommendation to DOT and see if they do that. But that mitigation is not taking into account the reduction in traffic that this proposal will have upon that intersection. So I guess we'll have to see what happens when it's actually built, but all the projections show it will actually be an improvement because of that reduction in traffic. Thirdly, we analyzed the site plan, worked hand in hand with the site engineer, with Pat McClellan, in developing a site plan that I believe is safe and efficient. We use the RSIS standards for much of the design aspects of it. We meet all the RSIS requirements, and I believe that we have a site that will work safely and efficiently.
Thank you. I have no further questions for this witness.
You mentioned the Powder Mill intersection, right?
Yeah.
Now, if I'm living here, and let's say I have to travel, living in these apartments, and I have to travel east in the morning, I have to come out of the complex and then immediately take the Ascenda Drive
Jug handle.
Shouldn't we be more concerned with the timing of that light?
Oh, yeah.
Because I could see, even though you've got real good traffic numbers, if you've got 25 people leaving for work at the same time and want to travel east, it's going to be chaos at Ascenda Drive, isn't it?
Yeah, we analyzed that intersection as well. It works better with better levels of service than Powder Mill. We had Fs at Powder Mill on the northbound, and particularly in the morning. So that's where the critical. We have Es at Ascenda Drive. We do increase the delays a little bit at that intersection, but we never drop it down to an F. So we kind of left it alone for that fact. At Powder Mill, we have Fs, and we degrade that to a degree. We want to bring it back to at least where it is today by doing that transposition of green time. But we could improve upon Ascenda Drive and the Pelican Ski Shop intersection as well by changing that timing as well. We just didn't analyze that, but that's something we can look at.
I'm just struggling with this Powder Mill intersection because I don't think you don't. If you're coming home at night and you're going west, you're going to go right through that intersection, correct? You're not going to turn left or right.
Correct.
To get to this?
Yeah, you have to pass Powder Mill. Yeah, you have to pass Powder Mill.
You got to pass Powder Mill
There's
Road.
No turns. You're not making left turns.
The only thing you can do to get in or out of this development is Route 10. Am I wrong? There's
Route 10 westbound would be the only way to get into it. Yes.
Okay. There's no back entrance or anything like that. Okay. So I'm struggling to understand what the Powder Mill intersection may suck.
What that has to do with our development.
It doesn't have anything to do with your development. Your development is going to have to figure out what they're going to do with Ascenda Drive. as a layman who's only been sitting up here for a few years.
Let me go, yeah. Looking at the future development, trip generation, I'm sorry, the levels of service. Well,
I mean, that's a pretty developed stretch
north-
of,
yeah,
of highway. Well, there's probably not going to be any more significant things built in Parsippany, right?
correct.
Well, you've got that wacky office building that has the elevator towers built, but
What-
that's almost as old as me.
I mean, what happens is when you reach a level of service F, any increase, and they're relatively minor increases, what we do project is that we will have an additional left turn, northbound left turns coming from that area based on the traffic volume distribution. And those movements in that direction drop us from an E to an F by about 15 or 16 seconds. And by taking some green time off of Route 10, putting it on that northbound, southbound, we improve it.
So
we don't see
you're
these-
saying
we don't
it's
see that.
possibility that, let's say in the evening, people will be coming home via Powder Mill Road South.
Some people,
Some
yes.
people will come Powder Mill Road South and then have to make a left-hand turn. Is there a left-hand turn?
No,
or
no,
is
no,
it- is
going
it
north, going north and making a left-hand turn.
Well, when you're coming south, how do you
You can make a left turn onto.
make a left turn on 10? I don't-
Onto Route 10, yes.
Okay. So you're saying there...
But nobody's good, but we don't have, that's not our traffic. They're obviously going away from our site.
Mhm.
It's gonna be the northbound making the left that's then gonna pull into our site. So we put some traffic on that left turn.
I'm sorry,
It degrades a
I'm
little bit.
confused. I'm confused.
Okay.
Explain this, please, because I'm not understanding this north left-hand turn and where you think all this traffic's going.
Powder Mill is to the east of this development.
I
A lot of
understand where
people
it
come
is.
from Morris Plains, down Powder Mill Road, they're going north. To get to here, they have to turn left onto Route 10. Okay?
Down the hill.
Right.
Right.
No, very few will be coming out of Powder Mill North because that's just all Powder Mill Estates. There's no
Exactly.
through traffic, okay? So it's mainly the traffic that will be coming from Morris Plains and South Points that will be coming Powder Mill Road.
Is
Will
the-
be going north on the South Powder Mill Road is what it is. That's the confusion.
Is
It'll
the-
be turning left onto Route 10, correct?
That's absolutely correct. And the left turns are typically always the more critical ones because you're sitting and waiting for a gap in traffic when people are going southbound, particularly on that intersection. So it's much tougher to make that left turn. Even though we may increase it by about 20 trips per hour, we have an impact on that intersection, and we found a mitigation to make that intersection work better than it works today. Now, that's not taking into account the existing shopping center people that make the same left. I did not take that traffic out of that left-hand turn. I just took whatever's making that left turn now and put our residential traffic on top of it. We degrade it, we can mitigate it. Maybe in the future, when we take that retail traffic out of the mix and just add our residential, maybe we're back to where we are. But based on a very conservative analysis, we have some impact and there's a means to mitigate it.
I got another question. You're probably not going to answer, but you'll bring the information next time. If I was going to come out of this development and immediately make the right turn onto the jug handle for Yesenda Drive, is that a dual lane, two lanes?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. How many cars can queue up in that?
Not many.
That's gonna be a comeback. I mean, I
Yeah.
could probably
No,
do it.
That's what I said.
I mean,
But
they-
I want to know because I think one of your biggest problems going to be getting people out of there, out of the
In the morning.
complex and onto 10 East
In the morning.
in the morning.
Yep.
And it probably, I mean, based on my recollection, I would assume it's anywhere between 7 to 10 cars in each lane.
I'd also want to know,
It's a mess.
since you're shortening the green at that intersection to the east.
The eastbound,
Once that jug
westbound.
so once the jug handle lets those cars go, are you now queuing up Route 10 more because you've shortened that green light?
Yep, we'll take a look at that. And again, we found, I mean, it's our job that if we do an analysis, no matter how conservative it is, if we have an impact, we try to find a solution to it. as I pointed out before, we're going to generate less traffic than the shopping center. In reality, what's going to happen is we're...
I don't understand that either.
That is,
You said in the
You're gonna have-
beginning of your argument it was a flailing shopping center. So I'm just not understanding
Well, I'm
your
sorry, what?
rationale behind this.
Oh, yeah, okay. But that's the reasons that we didn't compare what the existing traffic is coming in and out of the shopping center. Because it's a shopping center that is not operating as if it was a viable shopping center. The reason why we're here. The alternative is to fix up this shopping center, lower the rents, try to bring the Panera Breads and the Chick-fil-A's and those types of users into this site, and it will generate those high volumes of traffic. I mean, so to compare
from
it to
7 to
what
9
it
in the
exists today and say, you know what, there's no traffic being generated by that shopping center, and you're going to tell me it generates more traffic than 180 units? Because it's a tire-old shopping center. And I
Yeah, but
said,
even if it was an active shopping center, it's not going to generate very much traffic between 7 and 9.
yes, it does.
if
It can.
it
It
is
can
a-
very much
Stores
so.
don't
If
even
they
open
put a
till 9.
Starbucks in there.
Yeah.
The difference is less than the afternoon. I totally agree with you. But if I take the ITE trip generation rates, there is a
There's gotta be
reduction.
something wrong with it, because you can have 300 people living in there, all with cars commuting to work, coming out at between 7 and 9 in the morning.
Well, there's a Planet Fitness there, there's other stores that are there.
Yeah, so.
But they're not all.
They're not open
They have-
before
they-
9 o'clock.
They operate, Planet Fitness operates.
Well, maybe the gym.
I think it's a good discussion for further development, but I can tell you right now, most people that are coming eastbound on Route 10 to go to Planet Fitness, they cut through the Pelican parking lot. Will they be able to cut through Pelican to get into this property once it's developed? No, because that driveway will be closed.
There's an emergency driveway proposed.
Okay.
So that would be one issue to consider, I guess I need to go clear from
Yeah.
people coming, how they're gonna get into their apartment, into the development, okay? Coming from the west, right? And my other concern, coming out in the morning, be really concerned about the residents trying to get onto Route 10 East with just that one entrance. There's a light just down from it at the Pelican thing there. If we could work something out with that light, might be
Yeah,
something to
it's just a
negotiate,
joke.
okay? Otherwise, you're gonna have a long queue, you're gonna have school buses going in there, pick up kids, whatever, so.
I will have the answers that Mr. Irene asked about the queuing and the storage availability.
You have to go past the mall.
Good. Thank you.
No, just past the
Do we have any other questions for Mr. Steiger?
I think I do, unless he addressed it and I was not listening, which, if that's the case, I apologize. What would be the increase of traffic going back to that powder mill north, making that left onto Route 10 with this proposal?
What would be the increase? It
Mhm.
probably would not be an increase, as I said, if I took credit for the shopping center people that are making that left-hand turn, particularly in the evening peak hour.
But the way you did it, you didn't do that.
I
so
did,
what's
right. The increase from we have 26 additional vehicles making that left-hand turn. We kind of pumped that up because in the evening peak hour, the 180 units generate 61 trips, of which 78 trips, of which 48, almost 50 of them are coming into the site. The remainder are leaving the site. So I'm saying that half of the traffic will make that left-hand turn. I don't believe it'll be that heavy, but we analyzed it that much. So again, we have, in the evening peak hour, 48 trips being generated during the peak hour. Some portion of that will make that northbound left-hand turn. We very conservatively put 26 of them, more than half of them making that left-hand turn. In reality, I don't think it's going to be that high. But we analyzed it very conservatively, came up with a solution to change the timing if that ever were to happen, and we can make it improve upon that intersection.
Can you please explain to me how only 78 trips were generated coming from an apartment complex with over 300 people living in it?
At that intersection.
Yeah, at that intersection. But no, the total trips are 78. These are the Institute of Transportation Engineers trip generation rate.
What's that based
One-
on?
Empirical data. Actual traffic counts taken at apartment buildings such of this nature, of this size, rental units, and how much traffic they generate on a per unit
So
basis.
Yeah, but I don't think
Say
it's
that half the
taking
people
account.
that- Half the people that live there don't work.
Well, the one thing is that the 78
from
is
home.
an hourly rate. Some people start work at 6 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning. Some people don't go to work at all. They work at home. Some people leave 9:30. So there's going to be, let's say the majority of people leave between 6:30 and 9:30. That's a 3-hour window. And that's one of the reasons why residential
You're saying
developments.
78 trips
Times-
per hour.
Yeah, so if you times it by 3, now we're up to 240. So over that 3-hour period, they're not going to be 78, 78, 78. It may be 50, 78, and 55. But we're talking about 200 trips, let's say, over that peak period, that morning peak period.
And you think the retail would have generated more?
Yes.
With all due
And again,
respect-
these are not, I'm not making these numbers up. These are DOT numbers the DOT uses based on the ITE, the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual. And, I mean, you've probably heard me a dozen times talk about the ITE, other traffic engineers. That's the
Doesn't make any
standard.
logical sense to me, I'm sorry.
But with
Okay.
all due respect, at that site right now in the morning, you have 4 restaurants, and Cheap Maggie's and Planet Fitness. There's very few traffic that comes out of there in those peak
In
hours.
the morning.
Very few. I mean, they're there. There'll be a large increase of traffic coming out of that site in peak hours in the morning. There's no question about that, I'm sure. So I don't know I don't know what impact that has on this application, but to say there'll be less traffic come out of there in the morning I don't think so.
Well, Mr. Steiger, I just want to reiterate, that you indicated you're not taking credit for the
Right.
removal.
Yeah.
You're taking existing
Yeah.
traffic flows, adding in the residential just as it is. So that would account for, really what we're talking about is estimates for nothing being there.
Correct. Yes. That's why conservatively, and I agree with you, I don't know exactly what's going in and out, and I know the numbers are low. And the numbers are low because of the nature of the tenants that are in there today.
Right, exactly.
That's not to say they could be the same tenants next year or the year after. You put a Starbucks in there, that's
That's
two.
a different case.
Yeah, it's 200 trips an hour increase just by the Starbucks. So these are average rates, and I'm not saying that they're representative of what's happening today on this intersection, but it's what it could most likely be.
But as a
I know, but
traffic expert, you have to look at the capacity of a site. You have to look at the
Yes.
capacity of commercial spaces and think that that's going to be an operating full site. The same as to say, you could build these apartments, no one could rent them.
Yeah, or no one has a car, or everybody works in their apartment. You know, and we could take the extremes, but what we're taking is actual empirical data on what actually happens, but they are averages. They're not the lows, they're not the highs, they are what averages and what most likely will occur.
I think your point being, it was commercial versus residential, the traffic coming from the residential will be less than from commercial.
Yes, yes, that's.
I'll buy that argument.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what.
And then, again, it's,
Oh, yeah.
right, it's not what's happening
I
today.
understand, I see it, I got you.
Yeah, but these counts don't, and I'm just gonna end it, these counts don't take into effect the limited jug handle road options in regards to the exodus, the egress and ingress.
Yes,
It does not.
Everybody is coming to the site from the east.
Right.
And they have, and immediately they have basically 3 options. They either went,
Right.
I'm sorry, westbound through, or made a right turn southbound, or a left turn northbound.
Right, which means an intensified situation at these choke points.
They can also go down Route 10 and cut through the back road. There's a back road through Denver.
Yes, there are other, but I think the main access points would be Route 10.
Yeah, I just don't think a lot of people are gonna take Abraham and Sarah's journey just to skirt all this.
But the same is true for the existing retail use. You can only get to the site in the same directions that the residential. There's no difference in the directionality of the traffic being generated of the retail versus the residential.
Thank you.
Any questions by members of the public? I hear none, see none. You got another date for these gentlemen?
Can I ask Joe?
Oh, sure.
Joe, do you have any questions to Joe?
No, no, we're good. There was good
The
discussion.
the ramp from 10 down to the front of the building, have you looked at that?
Oh,
You don't have to answer it now.
Yeah.
I-
But what, in terms of the
I'm gonna ask
slope?
you next meeting.
In terms of the slope?
Yeah, and turning around and emergency vehicles.
Yeah.
Around the site. And lastly, the elimination of what I call the bridge, now called the tunnel.
And what that
I
does.
think you ought to comment on it.
Yep, I think what we can
don't have
do.
to do it now.
Yeah, all right, I'll be ready next time.
What's-
Thank you, thank you.
What's your
Tom.
next date, Nora?
November 6th.
November 5th.
6th.
We ask that this matter be carried without further notice. We'll grant all necessary extensions through the end of November.
Okay,
November 5th.
6th.
everybody heard that he's
Six.
granting us an
Six, not the
extension.
fifth.
Everybody heard that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The 6th, right?
Yes. It's a
A
Wednesday.
lot of witnesses from now on.
Okay.
The 5th is election.
November 5th, so motion to carry this case.
Okay,
I thought policy was signed in blood.
November 5th is election day? You got the right day
No.
there?
I said
No.
the 6th.
6th, okay, November 6th, okay. Motion to carry this to November 6th without further notice. Mr. O'Neill guarantees he's gonna give us extension. Is there a motion to that?
So moved.
Second?
Ready.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, everyone.
All in favor? Okay.
Good night.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got 9 o'clock for 3. I would just have to adjust it.
I am good.
Are they gonna win 110 games? I just wanna see them.
See ya.
I wanna see them get to the World Series.
Your son's a freshman in high school?
Yes.
At orientation?
So far so good. Yeah, he didn't make.
I heard really good things. He's going to Morris County with that.
Yeah.
I heard really good things about him.
Yeah, he's really
I've
excited.
seen it all, man. I've seen it all. I was there the day after he was
Congratulations.
the Red Sox.
Thanks, yeah, I'm really proud of him. He,
My son-in-law was a Red
the
Sox
team on
fan.
cross country, but that's
Who,
because he was too busy vacationing with his parents.
Oh,
And I told him,
Coach-
I
some coaches are
told
very
him,
strict,
that's fine, and I told him, when we
unreasonable.
were on vacation, I said, listen, dude, you know, you're not conditioning, and.
I
you're not
hate
gonna
hearing
do
those
practice."
stories, though.
Huh?
I hate hearing that.
Oh, that's all right, he took it, yeah, he took it okay, he took it okay, he's considered spare parts. So like, if somebody flails, then he's in, so.
Yeah, but I
You know what,
a
I
lot
want
of
my-
coaches do that.
Yeah, I want my
And I
son to
can't
experience
stand
this
it.
stuff though, I do,
Yeah.
I'm kinda happy.
You know, they're still here.
Yeah, because he used to get burned a couple times,
Yeah.
you know, he's got a
Or
burn.
just about
But
when
I
they
had
were
this
the
very
year when-
discussion on vacation, I was like, dude, we're on vacation.
My daughter, same thing, freshman going to Rushmore High School. She's on the field hockey team, and we had a vacation too.
Yeah.
They're luckily nowadays field hockey's not very popular.
Yeah,
And
right,
so they're
yeah.
not hockey fans.
Yeah.
So that was good.
He's fine. I'm
Good
glad
job.
he's not giving it up. Because,
Yeah.
because he was like, oh, I'm not
It's a
sure.
nice
I was like,
full-
you
full
stick with
sport,
it. Yeah.
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 All right,
We'll see you
we'll see.
later. Take care.
Hey, no, Joe.
No, see, yeah.
Nice test.
Take care, Nora. Thank you for everything.
Yes, yes. That's about 10 years ago, I'd say, maybe 11. Yeah. Well, you know who's on the planning board council, planning board attorney is Scott Carlson, who was the attorney for that application.
Where? Here? Yeah. Oh, okay, he's in Hoboken also.
Yeah.
So for the planning board, Scott's planning board?
Yeah.
Oh.
With the new, with the mayor Giuliano, he changed a whole lot of people, and Scott, he used to be with Riker Dancing for all those years. He opened up, he hung, yeah, and his own single.
No, I never got away.
Yeah,
I was off.
yeah, he's a-
I
and
had
he's a
a
good
problem
guy,
with my
too.
knees. I
Yeah,
spent
he's
my week off
Yeah.
going to doctors and injections and water taken out and steroid packs and so.
Yeah,
next
oh
step,
yeah, and a very
MRI in
active
a couple
plan.
of days.
Just like you meet twice a month.
Not much of a vacation.
So,
Miss
quick
my
question on
fishing.
this though. Any pre-applications with the DOT, or what do you think about compliance with their regulations? I mean, how does it, you're
Where?
Yeah.
It's oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna forget.
And I'm guessing the
oh,
roadway
Lanedex.
is a design certificate. They have no shoulder on the
Yeah.
How do you think that plays in with the need for XL, decel lane?
Well, well, then you're probably, when you go into, what's your name, Tri-County? Right, what, like, doctor, like your orthopedic? Oh, you,
I
okay.
gotta double check.
Yeah.
We're closing a driveway.
Yeah, you look like you've lost weight.
That's a minor, that's a minor.
Yeah.
But it's minor step, you actually have to notify
It could be,
the townships.
it looks
But
good.